right, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome into Concrete Jungle, a New York baseball podcast here on FingerLakes1.com. I'm Paul Russo, joined as always by Kyle Evans. Kyle made it to the All-Star break, so we have plenty to more or less kind of get into today. Especially, we got some breaking news that we're going to be jumping into, but we'll touch on that obviously in a second. Good weekend for you, though. Plenty of baseball to be watched, I'm assuming that you were able to do.
Yeah, it was a pretty good weekend. For the most part, I've been paying more attention to other teams now, and because there's no other sports on. But yeah, I'm glad the Yankees have made some moves that we're going to talk about, and the home run derby tonight should be fun as well, and the whole All-Star break in general. So yeah, it's going good. How about you?
Yeah, can't complain. Had baseball yesterday, so check that off the old mark. Split a doubleheader. That happens from time to time, so.
At least you didn't get swept.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. So before we get any further, let's do a couple sponsored business type deal here. We'll start with Dr. Jeffrey Halstead, DMD. Dr. Jeffrey Halstead has been Canandaigua's hometown dentist for more than 35 years, offering routine dental care as well as cosmetic dentistry, implants, and dentures by their highly trained and experienced staff. You can visit them online at CanandaiguaDentistry.com, or you can find them on Facebook and Instagram. And sometimes you have to really force this thing to go along here a little bit. Seneca Falls Country Club. Since 1925, Seneca Falls Country Club has been one of the premier golf destinations in the Finger Lakes region. Their meticulously groomed 18-hole championship golf course overlooking Cayuga Lake is the perfect combination of playability, beauty, and challenge. Book your tee time online at SenecaFallsCountryClub.com, and be sure to check out their amazing weekend afternoon open golf special. So, let's get to it here. We begin in Yankee land today because we have some breaking news going in there. And there we go. Sometimes takes a minute. So let's start from Thursday and kind of work forward here for just a quick second, right? Drop being the kind term here, the series finale against Baltimore. So they split with the Orioles. Against the Cubs, lose a series, only able to get Saturday's game, a win there. And within there, apparently it didn't update. That's pretty neat.
Yeah,
that happens from time to time. Let's kind of begin. I guess I want to go firstly here in the breaking news development side of things here. So Kyle, I'll turn it over to you. Dillon Lawson, former Yankee hitting coach, relieved of his duties after the game yesterday on Sunday. And fast forward, all of a sudden they at least have their guy for the rest of the year in Sean Casey.
Yeah, just about, I would say like 40 minutes ago, the Yankees have brought in Sean Casey, former big leaguer, spent 12 seasons, was a .302 career hitter, could really hit the ball for contact, and, that's a great guy to bring in for a team that struggles to make contact and put the ball in play. And yeah, I think a change was needed, especially after getting shut down by former Yankee Jameson Taillon the other night. It seemed like that was kind of the final thing that really made Brian Cashman want to make this move. He's never fired a coach in season before, so that's what really was surprising by all this news that came out right after the game last night. Well, a couple hours after the game last night. So yeah, hopefully this change helps. It still comes down to the players, obviously. These veteran guys know, that they got to get going, and hopefully this All-Star break kind of helps them. But I do like the move. We'll see how it works out. And everyone's saying that that won't fix everything, but I do think it'll help. And I think Lawson was also out because if fans don't know this, Anthony Volpe, was struggling for that long period of time, and on an off day, he went over with prospect Austin Wells to kind of go over hitting and everything, and he was the one that kind of helped him make adjustments at the plate. And you would think that, Dillon Lawson would have, seen that on video and helped him make that adjustment, but he didn't. So I thought that was pretty telling, and I think the organization kind of caught on to that story and was like, man, if he's not helping, if he wasn't the one that was helping Volpe, then why is he here? And then you also have 2 assistant hitting coaches.
Yeah.
So for Austin Wells to pick up that thing that he was doing at the plate, with his not closing his stance all the way and stuff like that, that was a little embarrassing, I would say, for Lawson. I mean, they have all the video in the world, and he couldn't be the guy that picked that up. So that's kind of been the story around Yankee Twitter the last few days.
Yeah, I mean, it's been dubbed the chicken parm
Yep.
meeting at this point. Yeah, I definitely agree, and that you kind of took the one point I wanted to kind of discuss, right? Is the fact that if one of these minor league prospects, right, is the one kind of really showing the differences between what you can and can't do at the plate, it's not exactly a good indication of what you're doing. And furthermore, we talk about Dillon Lawson, right, who highly regarded in the minors as this minor league instructor, right? But for the second time in a row, when the Yankees made this hire, the other one being Marcus Thames, right? Neither lasts more than, obviously, Thames 2 years, but in Lawson didn't even make it.
Yep.
To the end of the season. So it's interesting because I don't know how much is going to fully change, right? We'll touch on the Sean Casey thing here really in depth here in a second, but without judging that lineup, to me is that's where a lot of the bigger stuff kind of lies still. But you bring in Sean Casey, the way it appears to me is Boone had a lot of say actually in this one, and teammates for a handful of years in Cincinnati and stuff. And look, Casey is a baseball guy, 102 career average or 302 career average. Apologize there, and just a pro hitter, pro player, very good player in his time. He's been with MLB Network since he retired as a player in 2008, so he's still around the game. This is only a deal, right, for just the rest of the year. So I'm really intrigued to kind of see how this goes. But what that tells me is, I think you kind of said it's probably more organizational. I kind of think it's actually more Sean Casey, who only didn't want to do the year here and kind of figure it out and see if it's actually maybe something he wants to do. Not saying that this is something that the Yankees also didn't want to do in terms of length. But I am really intrigued to kind of see what can be done, right? Because now, you talk about like the assistant hitting coach, like Brad Wilkerson, former big leaguer too himself. You got a ton of major league hitting experience on this coaching staff now, right? From Boone to obviously now Sean Casey and Brad Wilkerson. That if it doesn't click here the second half of the year, I think there's a lot of institutional looking around that's going to have to be done.
Yeah, they say there was a report this morning, too. I don't know if you saw this, but Aaron Boone's job is safe. That doesn't surprise me at all, but I guess that report had to be out there this morning just because of the in-season change that just occurred.
Right.
But yeah, I also was seeing like a lot going around about how Dillon Lawson might have affected these guys' approach. Because if you noticed, the Yankees this year, they're at the bottom of on-base percentage. And all the other previous years, they have been among the top. They're not taking as many pitches. They're jumping on early, fastballs and first pitches, and it just hasn't worked out. And here's some like mind-blowing numbers. Even with Aaron Judge out, they still have the veteran guys that can get this done. But since Judge has gone out 14 and 17, which obviously we all knew that, but here's the alarming stats. They have the lowest batting average at 218 in Major League Baseball, the lowest on-base percentage in Major League Baseball at 288, and the third fewest runs scored in Major League Baseball over that span at 117. So they aren't just bad without Aaron Judge. They're bottom of the league bad. And remember, the Oakland Athletics and Kansas City Royals exist.
Yeah.
So for a lineup that still has veteran guys and a guy who, is figuring out things in Anthony Volpe, this shouldn't be happening. And if the Yankees didn't have one of the best pitching staffs in the league right now, I'm telling you, this team would be in bad, bad shape. So I don't know if this one hitting coach is just going to make this big difference, based on these numbers. But I guess at least they're trying to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be It will be interesting. He's brought a good point, right? Like, if it wasn't for the pitching, where would this team be? But maybe this is kind of the perfect segue in. You know, talk a little bit about Rodon's return a little bit Friday. I thought he looked pretty good overall. Obviously, to me, the one that sticks out is the Bellinger home run. And to me, he was leaving a lot of stuff elevated in the zone still. And, like, I don't have a problem, you know, that's something that I'm sure he will hone in on for the next start. But, you know, coming off losing losing Game 4 of that Baltimore series the way that they did, right? And then kind of the way the whole series played out against the Cubs. And, you know, it's discussed Sunday a little bit here in a nutshell, right? I mean, pulling Herman when I don't know if I would have pulled him. You know, a bullpen that, albeit good, has really shown some cracks in the foundation every now and then.
Over the last 5 games, especially.
I was about to say, I don't want to single out Marinaccio, who got the loss even, but even he's been off lately. So, this is going to be an interesting All-Star break for the Yankees here, right? I don't know how they're going to really fully reassess everything here. You know, we talk a lot about the Mets, and it's going to be another talking point here coming up. Like, I don't know with the Yankees here if the answer is so much in-house anymore. You just go out and grab somebody, in my opinion. So it's kind of funny, you know, they let Colton Brewer, and I know he hasn't done much, if at all, right, with the big league level, but they let Colton Brewer go to Japan all of a sudden last night as well.
After trading for him, I know it was only cash, but
yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know what they're kind of thinking right now. I think they maybe did a panic button type thing, but collectively, but I don't know. Kind of getting away from what I really wanted to talk about here with Rodon. So, what were your thoughts on Rodon? Like I said, I thought overall pretty good. Can't outright complain about some stuff, but leaving the balls elevated like he did certainly was my real eye-catching thing from his start.
yeah, I thought he threw the ball pretty well. Was pounding the strike zone. Got tired there in the 4th inning, but, you know, got out of it. And then in the 5th, you could just tell he was basically out of gas. There was even one moment where they caught him on camera, you know, just at the mound, just with his head down, taking a deep breath. And, I mean, that's expected. He hasn't gone that long in a game in forever, even in his minor league games. So it was still nice to see him make that start before the All-Star break. Hopefully, you know, he comes back and just can continue to build up his length and, you know, continue to help this team win, because I don't know if we're going to get into it, but, man, Luis Severino is a big question mark right now.
Yeah. I mean, we did talk a little bit about it on last week.
It's gotten even worse, though, since.
Right, yeah. I mean,
So, I don't know. I do think he's in jeopardy of losing his spot in the rotation. No joke.
Yeah.
Or, I don't think they would do this, but does he get the Alek Manoah treatment? That would be insane.
I mean, he might. I mean, I don't. I'm not a big fan of it, but I mean, Manoah appeared to at least figure something out, at least in one start, right? I mean,
Yeah, and he came back, against the Tigers. It was that Friday night and looked real good.
yeah.
But I know it's the Tigers too. If you look at the numbers with the Yankees, they're right there with the Yankees in terms of offensive numbers. It's bad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, part of me, again, goes back to this, like, I don't know why they were as idle as they were in the offseason collectively overall, but I don't know.
Yeah, here's a stat before we move on. 20 runs the Yankees bullpen has given up over the last 5 games. They still have the best ERA, but it's jumped from 2.82 to 3.08. It's because the Guardians' bullpen has gotten a little worse, and the other teams, as crazy as it is, the other teams' bullpens haven't been great.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just a whole Major League Baseball, wide thing, but yeah, the Yankees' bullpen has been struggling a bit, and Ron Marinaccio's been, at the front of that for struggles.
Yeah. Did want to mention here, as I get the notes here, because I want to get everything proper. MLB draft going on right now. Yesterday was the first 2 rounds. The Yankees only had 1 pick. And they selected shortstop George Lombard Jr. from Gulliver Prep in Pinecrest, Florida, 26 overall. His dad is the current bench coach for the Detroit Tigers and a former big leaguer himself. The Yankees have kind of they've drafted a lot of the middle infield guys here in recent years up high. Admittedly, I don't know a ton about the high school crop this year as I do the college crop. But, you want to look back at it, right? Go to Volpe, for example, but Trey Sweeney, some other guys, and Lombard Jr. appears to be kind of the next in line with that. To me, it kind of tells me that the mindset is, bringing these guys who probably end up being versatile in different trade or different areas. I know Lombard is a Vanderbilt commit, so I don't know fully about his plans, although usually first rounders, they forego the college process and go right to professional ball. So congratulations and welcome to the Yankee organization to George Lombard Jr.
Yeah, I seen all over Twitter last night that there's not really one glaring issue with his game. He pretty much does everything well, and a lot of people have been saying that he could transition over to another infield spot, like second or third. But yeah, the thing about baseball drafts is these guys usually take a while before before they impact a big league level team. Right. This is not the NFL or any of the other leagues where they're kind of immediate impacts. So some of these fans are acting on Twitter saying like, "Oh, we have Anthony Volpe." Like that has nothing to do with why they drafted him. Like,
right.
It's just amazing how these casual fans don't know a lot.
Right.
Yep. So I guess it sounds like a pretty good pick, but yeah, I don't know too much about the college level stuff.
Yeah. All right, let's discuss a couple updates here for injured players and transactions. Nestor Cortez threw a live batting practice session yesterday on Sunday. He threw 20 live pitches and said that he didn't feel any pain. Interesting to note, though, he was transferred to the 60-day injured list over the weekend. One of the guys he faced was Greg Allen. He took live at-bats against Cortez on Sunday, so he continues his rehabilitation process. So a couple positive stuff there for Nestor and Greg Allen. And I'll throw this one in there, too, for it. Why not? Jonathan Loizaga threw 10 pitches from the mound yesterday at Yankee Stadium as he begins his ramp-up as well in the rehab process. So good to see there. Obviously, I think the projected timelines for all those plays are probably still the same at this point, right? August for Cortez and Allen, beyond that for Loizaga. But I'm sure, going into the All-Star break, a little bit of at least for those guys, a nice little positive momentum push.
Yeah, they've said all along that Cortez was probably going to be late July, and yeah, they put him on the 60-day IL, but it's not a setback. I mean, he's eligible to come off August 3rd, so I mean, it may be a week or two later than expected, but I mean, no setbacks. He's thrown 3 bullpens now, so yeah, that's good news.
Yeah. And then, as we were awaiting, we did the podcast on Thursday. We knew Jake Bauers would be in jeopardy. He'll be heading to the injured list, and Frenchie Cordero was recalled to take his place on the roster. So tough blow for a guy who's kind of helped anchor the Yankee lineup here the past couple of weeks. And we'll see the return, obviously, here for sure of Cordero post All-Star break at this point. So unfortunately, the Yankee outfield continuing to take a beating here, no matter the situation.
Yeah, by now they had to have set a record for the most outfielders hurt. I mean, there's some guys that we're not even thinking of that have been hurt this season. It's amazing. I mean, almost everyone, it seems like, has been on the aisle at some point. Mm-hmm. So it's just wild stuff.
Yeah.
But what can you do?
I hear you there. All right, let's transition over to the Mets. Mets were able to sweep the Diamondbacks on Thursday and then go into San Diego and lose the series there. And frankly, I thought the way that they came off the series in Arizona, I'm like, all right, the offense is in a really good spot, and it seemed like the offense kind of just fizzled away a little bit in San Diego for the most part. And it's pretty interesting, too, because there's some justifiable pitching stuff that I do want to talk about with them, but obviously the main headline for the Mets right now is Pete Alonso offensively, because he's in the home run derby and everything. And, he really, outside of some power moments, he really the past month has not looked sharp overall.
Wait, really?
Well,
I didn't think you were going to admit that.
I thought his average has dipped pretty good.
Oh, it has.
So, I mean, I don't know. If the Mets kind of, we've been doing this, I won't say hemming and hawing on them, but at this point we're both in agreement, right, that they aren't near where they need to be. They need to. We're at the point where they probably should scrap the season, right? I mean, I don't know at this point if you're going toe-to-toe with San Diego like they did, and the Padres, who have DFA'd Nelson Cruz last week, who I think was just more or less the innocent bystander of pick one of two guys, and they went with just probably the monetary side of things. I don't know. And I mean, it's funny. You look at it. They were able to actually kind of get the Blake Snell a little bit, of all people. But, I mean, outside of that, it wasn't great. It really wasn't great. And I think this is where I can introduce this a little bit. But, Scherzer now has finally kind of come out and said, like, especially his off-speed, mainly his slider, it's just not going the way he wants it to.
Yeah, trade him. That's what I'd say.
But I for the Mets at this point, their All-Star break is going to do a lot of, to me, they're going to be probably making phone calls, in my opinion, to see who's kind of piquing the interest of teams, right? And for some of these guys, how much money are they going to have to eat on these contracts?
Yeah, I think you said it well. Pete Alonso's hitting 170 over his last 30 games.
Yeesh.
And I just don't think it's probably a great idea to go participate in the home run derby after your swing hasn't been too great over the last month or so. I mean, we all know what happened when Aaron Judge did his home run derby and won it. What was that, 2017 now?
Rookie year.
So, he was awful the first month and a half back. I don't know. I know Pete Alonso has fun doing it, and he's won some of them, but I just don't really think he should probably be participating this year. But whatever. But yeah, Pete Alonso, he still hits his homers here and there and drives in runs, but man, season average is down to 211. I don't know. But he's not the only one at fault. There's other guys like Jeff McNeil has been miserable. I don't know. Starling Marte, his at-bats have looked terrible. I don't know if you saw in San Diego the other night, he had a ball drop in front of him that he easily could have caught.
Yeah.
And just all these just different things that go on. And, I mean, they won 6 in a row, and, they could have just won one of the last 2 games in the San Diego series or won another series, and then they go and lose 2. This is what they do all year. They get that momentum, and then they just kind of give it back.
Yeah.
So, and they're just too far out right now.
It kind of, part of that I think goes back to what I said, has to be about 2 weeks ago now, about how there's just no clubhouse leadership. And that portion of it isn't on Buck, right? But it's on the veteran guys. But if a veteran guy like Marte is doing that, right? I mean, that kind of shows you all you need to know, maybe, in a way.
Yeah, Francisco Alvarez, though, was a bright spot, I guess, if we're going to talk positive things. 17 home runs now. I think, what is he, tied with Sean Murphy now? 'Cause Sean Murphy had another one over the weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know, but he's been tremendous. And remember, like I said last time, he didn't start the season with this team.
Right.
And he's on pace for 31 home runs. That's a good bright spot for the team.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to do another bright spot, Kodai Senga was named an All-Star Game replacement, and justifiably so, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know you when I said Scherzer, said outright trade him, right? But I think it goes back to something that I think we kind of talked about anyway a couple weeks ago too, right? Is if you're gonna sell out at this point, I think him or Verlander, right? I mean, they gotta be one of the first 2 guys to go.
There's no way Scherzer wants to stay with this team.
Right.
He would want to pitch in more playoff games. I think he's going to do his best to try to get out of there. Honestly,
so.
I think Verlander stays. I think you said it well last time we kind of mentioned him. He kind of probably only cares about the money at this point.
Right.
But yeah, I think Scherzer is going to try to get out for real. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting All-Star break.
Breaking news.
Oh, go ahead.
I mean, it's just for the All-Star game, but
go ahead.
Garrett Cole will start the All-Star game.
Really?
For the first time in his career.
How about that?
And I think he deserved it. He's been one of the best pitchers in the American League this year. And Valdez is on the, was it Valdez? Yeah, Valdez is on the IL now. Yeah. So, and McClanahan. So, makes sense. But good for him.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's touch on the Mets draft last night a little bit here for a second. They drafted shortstop Colin Hawk from Parkview High School in Lilburn, Georgia. 32nd overall. And then also last night, in the second round, they took right-hand pitcher Brandon Sproat with the 56th overall selection from the University of Florida. And Met fans, that name sounds familiar. You drafted him in the 3rd round last year, but failed to strike a deal with him. So clearly the Mets saw something they liked out of him. I remember his name in the College World Series. So I don't know. He's obviously going to start, in my mind, further along in the process than Hawk would. But it'll be interesting to kind of see Hawk shortstop. Kind of, again, I think probably doing a little bit like what I theorized me with the Yankees doing there a little bit, a versatile guy who you could probably plug in a couple of different spots, more than likely at certain points, but who knows. So that does it in terms of the draft stuff for the Mets for the first couple days. Let's head on over and discuss a couple injury and transaction updates for the Mets. Jose Quintana made his 5th rehab start on Saturday with AAA Syracuse. He went 4 1/3 inning, allowed 5 runs and 4 hits. Statistically, it was his probably worst rehab outing so far. Comes on the heels right of having to get pulled because of a pitch count issue earlier in the week in a rehab start with Syracuse. So it will be interesting to kind of see what happens here. The plan, still have him throw a sim game Thursday after the All-Star game and kind of go from there. But I don't know. I think the Mets might be in an interesting little crossroads here with Quintana and what to maybe do with him coming off the IL.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he maybe starts out in the bullpen. It seems like he's good for a couple innings, and then he kind of just runs out of gas or just doesn't have it anymore. But yeah, they have an interesting choice to make. And then I don't know if you've seen, we probably will talk about it later, but Tyler McGill just had one of his best starts at AAA, and I don't know, the Mets, I almost said the Yankees. The Mets have a lot of interesting pitching decisions just based on how it's gone with their pitching.
Yeah, I mean, McGill and Lucchesi have both done very well at Syracuse, so I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Outfielder Tommy Pham exited the first inning of Sunday's game with right groin soreness. It's been diagnosed. He is having an MRI today. Tough spot. He's been one of the brighter Mets spots, oddly, in the past month. And chasing after a first at bat, ball hit by Ha-Seong Kim, came up gimp and exited pretty much right away in the game yesterday.
Yeah, there was a stretch where him and Mark Canha were driving in runs and had the most RBIs. So yeah, that sucks to see that happen. But I mean, at least it's the All-Star break. I don't know how long he would miss, but if he does go on the IL, at least he has some days already off anyway.
Right. Yeah, that'd be an interesting retroactive as we enjoyed going at. Right-hand pitcher Chris Flexen was granted his release. He was designated for assignment following the trade over from Seattle. Right-hand pitcher Denny Reyes was outrated AAA Syracuse. So one pitcher out the door, another one staying at least within the farm system for the Mets here. They're also into the All-Star break here, so a perfect transition over to talk about our AAA teams in Rochester and Syracuse, and also discuss a little bit of the All-Star game itself. For Rochester, they ended up splitting with Buffalo for the week series last week. Ended up being a big offensive few nights back and forth between the teams. Not sure if you really saw that, Kyle, but it was like nine runs in one game, 11 in the next, and all of a sudden I think it was like 16. Kind of crazy to see those teams kind of go back and forth there momentarily offensively at an innovative field.
Yeah, didn't Buffalo blow them out the one game? Yeah. It wasn't like 17-1?
That was a 16, yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. But Buffalo always seems like they're a good team. I don't know the record this year, but it seems like they're always good. They always have the prospects down there. Like I said, I saw a no-hitter. I forgot who was it. I said his name last time, but yeah, Buffalo's always been good.
Yeah. So a couple roster shifts going on with the Red Wings. Catcher Steven Williams was assigned from Single-A Wilmington. Right-hand pitcher Luis Cessa was assigned to Rochester after signing a minor league deal with Washington. I know he got the start. I believe it was
got lit up
Thursday night, right? He got the start.
Yeah, he just hasn't been good this year.
Left-hand pitcher Joe LaSorsa was optioned back to Rochester. Right-hand pitcher Tyler Beck was assigned from Double-A Harrisburg. Right-hand pitcher Yohan Adon was recalled to Washington. Outfielder Derek Hill was sent outright to Rochester. And then Jake Knoll was placed on the IL, but some positives here. Darren Baker activated off the injured list. So good to see he is back. He was at the top of the lineup a couple of the games for the Red Wings, and he was a big table setter for the Red Wings there before he got hurt towards the end of the first half of the season.
Yeah, some pretty good news for the most part. I actually have not been paying attention as much now that we don't really cover the teams, and I'm big into Major League Baseball. But yeah, it seems like things are going better for the Red Wings and the Mets. 2-9, man, that sucks.
Yeah, they went into Worcester and got smacked. Only was able to take one win in the week-long series against the Husocks. That was on Thursday. Not a ton of outright positive stuff going on there. Shortstop Jose Peraza was sent on a rehab assignment to Single-A St. Lucie now. Right-hand pitcher Mike Vasil was placed on the temporary inactive list, and right-hand pitcher Sean Reed-Foley was activated off the injured list. So not great stuff. They're at the bottom of the International League standings right now. Rochester right at the middle of the pack pretty much. Both teams, much like the Major League, even though there's no All-Star game for AAA this year again, off until Friday. And then it's reigniting a little bit of the Thruway Cup as the Red Wings travel to Syracuse for the weekend.
Yeah, I did just want to say quickly, though, I've noticed, why is Luis Cessa all of a sudden becoming a starter? He was so much better as a reliever.
Cincinnati tried first.
And it didn't work out in Cincinnati. I remember he had some rough games. 11 runs. I remember one game he gave up. So I just don't know, why can't he go back to his reliever days when he was much better.
Yeah.
Remember, at one time, he struggled with the Yankees, but then found it and was a reliable piece.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I can't believe they keep starting him, and he just continues to get rocked, even at the AAA level.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That caught me off guard too. Again, that they're kind of using him in the starting role. That's why he had to deal with Colorado and opted out of it. And I know they weren't. It's hard to gauge, right? Because AAA for Colorado is in Albuquerque, which is technically higher in elevation than even Denver. And his ERA there was, I think, like 8.5 or something like that. Like I don't know. I'm with you though. I don't think he's a starter. I think he's a bullpen guy, and I think they would be better pressed to have him out of the bullpen as well. So, I don't know.
And he can give you multiple innings, but I don't think he can start a game.
Right.
Maybe 2-3 innings at most, but he's just not a starter.
Oh. All right, let's spend a couple minutes here before we head out. All-Star game, we've been mentioning it, banging it home right about the break, but All-Star game and Home Run Derby. Derby's tonight, Monday. All-Star game tomorrow, Tuesday. All right, I did fill out the bracket. I'm not going to pull it up and do the full-fledged deal, but I'm going with Randy Arozarena to win the Home Run Derby tonight. I think there's going to be some upsets. The de facto 1 seed is Luis Robert, and I have Adley Ruckman beating him in the first round, to be completely honest with you. So I think there's some upsets seed-wise, even though I don't think there are truly upsets to be had in the Home Run Derby tonight. But that being said, I am going with Randy, unless I feel worried. If he busts out the cowboy boots, I don't know how well that's going to work. But I'm going with Randy for the Home Run Derby tonight.
See, out of all these, I'm rooting for the guy that I like the most out of all these players, and that's Julio Rodriguez. I know the chance of him winning are pretty slim. I mean, he's got Pete Alonso in the first round.
Right.
So, but hey, upsets do happen. Maybe, because they're in Seattle.
Home cooking.
Yeah, maybe he just, the crowd kind of pumps him up more, but I guess if I wasn't going with Julio, who I think's going to win,
I have a feeling who you're going to say.
I feel like, I just don't like some of these contestants here. Oh, man. Screw it, I'll say Pete Alonso wins again.
Oh, it's not who I thought you were going to say. Definitely thought you were going to say Vlad Jr.
My issue with him, Paul. Should I say it?
Go ahead.
I'm afraid he's going to get too tired.
Oh, okay. No, that's understandable.
And Pete Alonso kind of knows what it takes to get this done as a 2-time champion. And wasn't that back-to-back?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a fan of a lot of these guys. I don't hate these guys. I'm like, we could have better guys in it, like I kind of mentioned last show. But yeah, go Julio Rodriguez. Hopefully he pulls off the upset. If not, I'm expecting Pete Alonso to win.
All right. Expectations for the All-Star game tomorrow? Obviously, we know Garrett Cole's starting for the AL at least.
Yeah, that's nice to see, because other than that, there's no judge in there. So usually the Yankees have more participants, so it's going to be a little bit of a different All-Star game for me. I'm usually maybe more into it with more Yankees in it, but it's still going to be fun to watch. I think the American League wins. It's going to be a tight game. But yeah, that's kind of all I got for that one.
I'm with you. I think I'm going to roll the AL as well tomorrow night. So we'll be back Thursday. we'll be previewing out the weekend. That's barring any like really major news. That'll probably be pretty much it for Thursday. So probably will be another shorter podcast there, but it happens from time to time, you know. So everybody enjoy the Home Run Derby. We'll have it on and watching at our respective domiciles. Hopefully you as well for the All-Star Game too tomorrow on Tuesday. So until then, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Catch by any time there. Spotify for podcasters, and we'll talk with everybody on Thursday.